Established in 1908, it's now confirmed in 2017 that the Rothschild Investment Corporation has purchased into Bitcoin. While this is not a big surprise for most people who follow Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, keep in mind that all we do know is what Rothschild has been required to disclose via SEC articles just signed on Friday. So where and how much Bitcoin did they get? How could this move trigger other hedge fund managers who look up to Rothschild decision-making process? And what do we need to know that doesn't require disclosure to the SEC? Let's discuss. Hey everybody, I'm Gary Palmer Jr., you're you, and together, welcome to Minting Coins. So there's a lot of excitement continuing to go on in Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency space. Bitcoin is at a healthy price of value currently per Bitcoin, about $2,700. And that market cap is pushing and reaching into that 100 billion market capitalization. And it's no surprise because we have a lot going on. We have a lot of excitement that's really counter to the fear and the uncertainty and the doubt. A lot of this excitement, as we know, has been coming from around segregated witness, BIP 91, how that relates to BIP 148 with the segregated witness getting activated. Although there's a lot of confusion with is it activated, is it about to be activated, because there's so many periods of waiting and waiting periods and times in between of having to have activations locked in and whatnot. We can go over a little of that information, but it looks really strong with segregated witness getting locked in, getting activated in, less than just a couple weeks in totality, right? Even though we have the 2x part, the Bitcoin hard fork in the fall, and a potential split in the chain, that still remains to be seen. A lot of people coming out, John McAfee, different people, different corporations, talking about the one true Bitcoin, the true blood of the true Bitcoin, where there's different coins popping up, different coins that want to be Bitcoin, that are this Bitcoin without the segregated witness showing up. And so, if you see any of that, then it's a simple distraction. We know what the Bitcoin is. You have your private keys. Only you have your private keys. And, buy and hold, and don't be separated from those, because the reason the cryptocurrency space is so interesting is because, not because it's digital, but it's because this is the first time that any two people across the world can transact value without requiring a third party, without needing a middleman, someone in the middle, to help verify these ledgers in centralized locations. And so the name of the game is really having your private keys, holding on to your private keys, because no matter what happens, you're going to have a part of what will ultimately be no more than 21 million Bitcoins. And, with a proper planning and whatnot, no one can take that away from you. And that's really, really interesting. I think what's happening is that there's other excitement going on at the same time. There's other excitement in the news with investments pouring in from hedge fund managers and a lot of the big money that's now looking at Bitcoin and realizing that this is the foundation of the change, the foundation of the pending flux of what's going to be disrupted in financial technology, with the people, with the processes, with the infrastructure that currently exists, right? And so a part of this we see, and we have seen governments turn around and governments starting to accept Bitcoin and blockchain technology in different forms. We see financial institutions really seeking to adapt the Bitcoin technology and the blockchain technology, distributed ledger technology, to really fit their own purposes while still allowing them to have the levels of control that that they're comfortable with. Now, those are new technologies that are not Bitcoin. They're not decentralized cryptocurrencies. They're not even Ethereum. And so it's important that you recognize the differences between something like, you know, a Fed coin or a Fed note or a Ripple, and the differences between that and something like Bitcoin or Litecoin or Monero or even Dash. Of course, we have Ethereum Classic, which are really distributed technologies. And even though there would be some disagreement between, you know, one extremist of another extremist of those particular coins, it's safe to say that each of those are extremely more secure than what would be a distributed ledger technology, which is centrally controlled, right? Something where it's something like a Ripple. I trust Bitcoin infinitely more than I trust Ripple. Now, Ripple might make sense in terms of an investment vehicle and an investment strategy, because more than likely all of these coins are going to go up in value. But in terms of what is safe and what has value without a company existing, without central, you know, middlemen existing, is Bitcoin, right? Ripple needs these middlemen in order for it to really be, you know, reach its full potential. But then when we have Bitcoin is, you know, it works without requiring any of these companies to exist in between. So part of the change that we're talking about, part of the change that we're seeing with the value of Bitcoin, and part of what we're talking about is that we're talking about hedge fund managers, not just governments turning around and turning into Bitcoin, but we also have the financial institutions like JP Morgan, you know, and you know, all sorts of you know, Citigroup, all sorts of financial companies and financial institutions that are mining Bitcoin, mining Ethereum, setting up all sorts of companies and connections between blockchain companies and this traditional financial technology, finance and banking system. And they're really going on board. And then behind all that, with all that, you have this Wall Street money. And with the Wall Street money, we know that these different hedge fund managers have already invested into Bitcoin into different ways, are putting Bitcoin into their portfolios. And with the technology stocks being so strong, and with the cryptocurrency performing so well, it's really been carrying the performance above average for the hedge fund managers who have been including cryptocurrencies in their hedge funds. And so I'm sure a lot of other hedge fund managers have really taken notice, and of all the hedge fund managers that take notice, some of those hedge fund managers are at the Rothschild Investment Corporation. And so it's really interesting to sort of get this information, this insight. And so with all that being said, why don't we take a look into the market and then pop into the news, dive deeper into the details, and let's discuss. Okay, so looking at the market cap and different top 10 coins over at coinmarketcap.com, again, just pointing out that the market capitalization is quickly approaching the $100 billion market total again, and Bitcoin is still fairly strong at a 47% dominance. And again, keep in mind that once the whole segregated witness thing is gone through in just a couple weeks to a couple months, this price could easily skyrocket, not just to $3,500, but you know, to $5,000 plus, maybe before coming down and crashing around, you know, $3,500, $4,000. We definitely see, with so much additional interest picking up, this is definitely going to translate into the demand for Bitcoin, of which is severely limited at, you know, less than 16.4 million of these. Remember, some of these are lost because people don't have their private keys. They don't have their private keys, they lost their computers. We know there's so many of those stories where there's so much Bitcoin that's unaccounted for, or simply hasn't moved in incredible stretches of time in terms of, you know, Bitcoin time. And so there's probably a lot less than 16.4 million Bitcoins actually existing. It's also worth noting that the 24-hour volume, typically in the past couple weeks or so, Ethereum volume has been much higher than Bitcoin, but the Bitcoin volume is definitely really strong. And where else are we? I don't know. I just feel like from watching this website and watching all the numbers change, I just think that everything is super undervalued. I think everything is really undervalued. I don't have any clear callouts or clear wins. I think that if any of these proposals get accepted from Ripple, then that's going to skyrocket the Ripple price. I think that Ethereum's going to be coming out with some new releases, and they're going to get new adoption from American Fortune 100 companies, and that's going to increase the Ethereum price. There's new software coming out for Dash, and if that does what they say it's going to do and really make it Dash easily accessible to everyone's mom and dad, then that could definitely increase the value of Dash. And Dash is a great coin that is super limited, even though there's pros and cons with every coin. And it seems as if Monero should be over $1 billion. And let's not get into that, but it really seems as if a lot of these coins are, for better or for worse, for their value for not really under what they're going to be in 6 months from now, for sure. And we'll go back and we'll take a look at it. And so with the Bitcoin price, we have the SegWit, and we have all the confusion with SegWit. And so just real quick to touch upon the SegWit stuff and taking a look at information in the world of SegWit, checking in there. Over at Reddit, we have this one block, this one block that we can follow, hash, mined by an unknown miner that allegedly locks in BIP91. And so this post, Bitcoin Allbot, says, assuming no hiccups, SegWit will be enabled by late August, because what we have here is the block that has that locks in the BIP91. See if we have. So I'm not sure if anyone wants to give their 2 cents in the comments below. This is the information that we're getting. Moving on, looking at btcforkmonitor.info, monitoring if we are detecting any splits in any of these nodes. You can see here that this is looking at the Bitcoin Core, the BIP148, the SegWit 2X, which is the BTC1, the Bitcoin ABC, which is not real Bitcoin, BIP91 only. All those nodes are operational, and so far no chain split is being detected. We'll have all these links below, and we'll keep you updated if we notice that there's any sort of hiccups in the system. And then additionally, we have blockchain.info and taking a look at orphan blocks, looking for splits in the chain, and just updated this pretty recently. And so far everything looks clear, and again, no splits in the chain, no issues. BIP91 seems to be locked in, still working. But that's keeping in mind that we do have the BIP148 coming up on August 1st, just about 7 days away. And so yeah, 8 days, 5 hours, 9 minutes away. And so that's coming up. That's going to be really exciting to see how that plays out. Don't expect to download any Bitcoin, upload any Bitcoin to your wallets on external sources, exchanges. Some exchanges have wallets shut down right now. People can't get their Bitcoin in or out of the exchange. They can trade within the exchange, but they can't exit their Bitcoin out of the exchange just because of this time period right now while BIP91 is locking in. And as we get closer to the BIP148, do all your transactions in a different coin, because there is going to be a bunch of chaos. This is going to be a bunch of turbulence. It is sort of like going through a pretty fierce storm, or even perhaps a tornado or a hurricane, and we just need to take precautions while while the upgrade is happening. Normally there's a maintenance mode. The beautiful thing about Bitcoin is that Bitcoin is still operational when these maintenance modes exist. The issue is that this is an opportunity to attack the system, and assuming that you have enough of the mining power, enough of the hash power, and with that being said, the people who want to more or less attack the system to make, let's say, Bitcoin one thing or another thing, a bunch of those difference of opinion folks do have significant amounts of hash power at their fingertips. So we aren't through the woods yet. We're getting through the woods. Have a strong hand. Buy and hold your Bitcoin dollar cost average. Be careful about sending and receiving Bitcoins as we get closer to these deadlines. And it's going to be really interesting to see where this is going. And where this is going is that people are still buying Bitcoin. People are still getting into Bitcoin. And turning into today's news, we see that hedge fund managers continue to buy Bitcoin. So hedge fund managers have come from a lot of different hedge funds, but what we see in today's news that you may have heard already and from the beginning of the opening of this show is that the Rothschild Investment Corporation is investing into Bitcoin. And so they're investing into Bitcoin, they're purchasing Bitcoin via the GBTC, which is the Bitcoin Investment Trust. And so the GBTC is an investment vehicle. It's a share of it's almost like an ICO, where it's a share of this company, and this company's assets are based on a certain amount of Bitcoin that GBTC has. And so if you've heard of ETFs, GBTC is really similar to an ETF. And it's able to exist by exploiting some loopholes, and some of those loopholes include only being able to operate for accredited investors, which means they're only able, you can only buy, as I understand it, you can only buy GBTC if you have a net worth of at least $500,000 or $1 million in like cash on hand. That's not even counting the value of your house. If you have like a house that's worth like $1 million, and when you purchase the GBTC, you're not allowed to sell it for at least 1 year. So it's a permanent sort of long bet for a 12-month plus bet, where you're purchasing the share of the company for the value of that company is. And see if we can take a quick peek over here. So if you go to Google and just type in GBTC, then you can see what the value is. So it's the Bitcoin Investment Trust. It's a company headquartered in the United States of America. I'm pretty sure New York City. And currently, one share of the GBTC is worth $396. Now there's Reddit posts where there was like tracking of how much Bitcoin was here, and information has become, I think, a little more difficult for people to track, and so some people are doing their best to keep up, to sort of track what the value of the GBTC is versus what an actual Bitcoin is, because more often than not, it seems as if the value of Bitcoin is actually less than the value of what you're getting for the GBTC. And so there's a lot of confusion, and it's not super clear how GBTC is really valued and what all the different variables are with the GBTC. But nevertheless, where are we with today's article? So, but nevertheless, the Rothschild Investment Corporation has purchased Bitcoin via the GBTC. And we know this because the SEC articles were just signed on Friday, and in the digital world, these SEC articles, which are it's public information, goes up online. And so Brian Cohen here and posted this. I think I actually saw this first, not on Twitter, but on Crypto's Facebook group. So you might have seen Crypto's Facebook group on Facebook. Go check that out. And I think Brian actually posted this there first, or maybe shortly after, probably he posted it on Twitter. Really interesting stuff. And so this isn't maybe a huge surprise to a lot of people. There's a lot of excitement going on with the SegWit stuff, but separate to all the SegWit stuff, the fact that investors like the Rothschilds and the hedge fund managers with the Rothschild Investment Corporation are beginning to diversify with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, that really bolsters and supports the reason for the valuations and the support of the valuation and the application of the cryptocurrency in terms of all of the other thousands of hedge fund managers that maybe watch the mainstream media and they're thinking Bitcoin is this weird fake money that has a lot of baggage attached to it. We would never include that in our hedge funds because then people would laugh at them. But now that they see that all these other hedge fund managers have had extreme success, maybe more success than they've had, and now they're seeing that the Rothschilds are investing into Bitcoin, diversifying with Bitcoin inside their specific hedge fund portfolios. Now all of these additional hedge fund managers will look at the GBTC or other options for investing in cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin perhaps more significantly than most, and that's going to be additional capital going into Bitcoin as a reserve currency, increasing the value of these portfolios ultimately as the applications continue, as SegWit is adopted, as Bitcoin becomes more like cash, as innovation continues for the application so everyone can easily have a wallet, and we go from Bitcoin being difficult for someone to access to Bitcoin being extremely liquid for anyone in the world to access, let it be a first world country or a third world country. So let's take let's take some deeper look at the information and see what other information is here specifically. So Brian Cohen is in the pixels, and in this tweet there's kindly some direct links that are going directly over to the SEC. And what we have here is a Form 13F information table. There's a second sheet too. We're going to skip over that. It just affirms that everything is true, has some high level information. And so this Form 13 was just submitted, expires in October 31st, 2018. And column 4 is showing the value of the asset times 1,000. So if this is 64, then what's a good one here? Just whatever, so, right, Aetna Air Products, right, 258, so it's to be 258,000, and then we have the number of shares in column 5 that they own. So if we look up the actual, what they have for Bitcoin, you have the Bitcoin Investment Trust shares, and so this is the GBTC share of the Bitcoin Investment Trust, and it's valued currently at $210,000. So I was really excited at first, because at first I was thinking that this was 210 Bitcoins, and for me that would have been really significant, because if you have 21 Bitcoins and you have 1/1,000,000th of all the Bitcoins that will ever exist, and so they had 210 Bitcoins, and then that would be what, 100,000th of all the Bitcoins that would ever exist. And so if that was the case, then that would have shown that they had the understanding of Bitcoin and the technology and some of the fundamentals of how that works. But no, this is just $210,000 worth, and what they have is 539 shares of the GBTC, which is currently just a little bit over $200,000. Because when we take the price of the GBT, where are we? And multiply that by the current price of about $400, that's what we get. So yeah, so that's that. That's the Rothschild Investment Corporation. That's them investing into Bitcoin, and then that's them putting that information in through the SEC. And so that's the only reason we have that information is because they're required to share that information with the SEC because of, you know, the requirements of those funds and their portfolios and how they're connected with different people. But I think it's important to recognize that that with the information that they're required to give, there's so much more information that they're not required to give. So they could be purchasing Bitcoin on their own. They could be purchasing Bitcoin in other ways, in other investment vehicles. I don't know, you know, off the top of my head, all the different loopholes. It's not something that I'm an expert in, but if this is just one indication of them investing in a Bitcoin of which we need to know about, what's to say that all the different people that are a part of, you know, these hedge funds and these different investments that they're purchasing Bitcoin in a way that they're actually holding their own keys, so that later, if they realize that they can acquire as much Bitcoin as they can now, and then the Bitcoin value accelerates and moons to $1 million, then these hedge fund managers are going to have, you know, trillions of dollars in dollars. They're just going to transfer the fiat dollar to the Bitcoin dollar, the Bitcoin dollar, the Bitcoin coin, and then just because they already have so much Bitcoin, it's just going to instantly make them rich inside the new cryptocurrency. It's an incredible opportunity just to make the rich richer if they understand the dynamics of the Bitcoin and they forcefully get Bitcoin to moon. I mean, what do you think is the possibility of that? Do you think that that's potentially part of the game plan, is for them to acquire as much Bitcoin as possible, and then to, you know, manipulate the market up and down? Maybe they know a crash is coming. Is it possible a crash could be coming? And if a crash was to come, then, you know, the fiat money that exists, you know, through the transfer process goes into the different coins, and all of these financial institutions are already set up, already operational. And, you know, I mean, we talk about often the value of a Bitcoin being $1 million in the best case scenario. You know, the math is there where Bitcoin could be $5 million. I mean, if there was like a total transference of wealth into digital technology. And is that possible for that to happen? You know, think about books, right? How often is it that people get a real book? It still happens. People definitely, you know, Barnes and Noble, Amazon definitely ship books, but I think there's a huge transition of people going to digital books. And just like with money and cash, there's a huge transition of people using debit cards and getting away from paper money. And with this new technology, which some people say is more revolutionary than, you know, the most revolutionary technology to come to the future, more revolutionary than artificial intelligence, more revolutionary than, you know, the space elevator or, you know, space travel, you know, more revolutionary than, you know, traveling to Mars, is the blockchain technology, which is going to really affect every single industry moving forward. And underpinning it all is the token that has all of this value, that's holding all of this potential, all of this energy to fuel the future in a decentralized, open structure that would allow, you know, just allow the system to work, that wouldn't be hacked, that wouldn't be faked, that wouldn't be manipulated. And it's really, really interesting. It's really, really exciting. And I want to know what you think and what you think about that. So I really hope that you share your comments below. Tap that like button. It really helps the channel, helps other people find a video. you know, tap, you know, like button for any video that you appreciate, all the videos that you're watching on YouTube. You know, really let your voice be heard. It's supporting people on YouTube. It's supporting the channel when you're watching the shows. It's supporting the channel when you're hitting the like button. Subscribe so you get our notifications, so you see what's happening, so you see what's coming out. And we'll talk more soon. We have a lot of information coming out. We're going to be talking more about the GBTC, about Coinbase, about so much more, so stay tuned. I'm glad in the meantime, together we're minting coins.